Hello, welcome to my channel. So today I'm pausing because I'm really excited to talk about these topics. A few aspects of monatomic elements, monatomic state gold, M state gold. It's said also allegedly that Andara, some people call it Andara crystal, which is actually like volcanic glass, is said to be monatomic. Now, with any of these type of things that I'm bringing up in reference to monatomic state, there's still so much room of like discovery, and there's a lot of controversy around some of these topics. So yeah, anything that I bring through, I always encourage you to, do your own research, and I am doing to the best of my ability with my own experiences and research, etc. Just to like share what I've experienced so far, what I found. Yeah. And I also kept being reminded of the Great Attractor. And I was going to do separate recordings, but I'm kind of being guided to do them all together. I'm not quite sure how it's going to exactly weave into each other, but yeah, we'll just let it unfold. A client and friend of mine actually was asking for more information on monatomic elements, particularly the gold and lotus. I did not mean to say lotus. I meant to say the Andaras. So blue lotus has been coming up for me a lot lately, and apparently it has for her too. So lotus, blue lotus, that could be coming up for you as well. I'm actually going to be making a tincture with some ORMUS gold and blue lotus in the next few weeks. So if anyone's interested in that, you can let me know. Okay, so the Great Attractor. Maybe you've heard of this, maybe not. So actually, there's a placement in astrology, which is how I actually stumbled across the Great Attractor. I believe it is a 14 degrees Sagittarius. I also saw something 14 to 17 degrees Sagittarius, but there may be also other placements like similar. Feel free to do your own research. Like I said, I'm not going to dive too deep into the specific placement. And then when I saw this in my chart, I was really curious about it, so I started to research a bit more. And the Great Attractor, I'm going to read some different things that I've been looking at. The Great Attractor is said to be the focal point of a group of 100,000 nearby galaxies known collectively as Laniakea, I'm probably butchering that, Laniakea, or the translation is Great Heaven. It's a Hawaiian word. It can also mean immense heaven, open skies, or wide horizons. Now, the Great Attractor, it is said that basically it's comprised of, over 100,000 galaxies, and including the Milky Way, and that it's essentially like so magnetic that it's like pulling in on itself. And something that I read that was really interesting about the Great Attractor Yeah, it's a region of gravitational attraction in intergalactic space, apparent central gravitational point of the Laniakea supercluster of galaxies, like I said, including Milky Way, as well as about 100,000 other galaxies. And then there's a very mysterious element to the Great Attraction, the Great Attractor. The whole clump of neighboring galaxies was being pulled off course at over 1 million miles per hour towards something we couldn't see, the Great Attractor, in quotes. This Great Attractor sits in the zone of avoidance, an area of space that is blocked from view by the stars and gas of the Milky Way. This has been a theme coming up a lot lately with some of these topics around things like hidden in plain sight that are starting to come to light, within our solar system, in intergalactic space, as they were just referencing. And I was just doing like a quick Google search, but yeah, I really was feeling that the Great Attractor and the idea of this magnetism that it exudes, like in astrology, the Great Attractor is like ultimate magnetism, essentially, at least from what I've understood. And so there's an ultraviolet light that I always feel emanating if I tap into the Great Attractor. There might even be, actually, I'm just looking something up quickly. As I was looking into some more about the Great Attractor, it is said that there's a high chance of colliding with other galaxies, which of course could have catastrophic consequences for life on Earth. But yeah, the estimate of this even potentially happening is like another few billion years. And even with that, and this is just like from quick Google search, we're having so many, like I said, hidden in plain sight experiences with some of these concepts. So it's interesting that like those of us who are into the idea of like integrating some of these higher consciousness aspects that I'm hearing a left high pitch in my frequency in my left ear, and I'm continuing the last like few nights off and on. I would say like off and on for the last week maybe. I've been like getting this really intense frequency pitches in my ears, almost as if like for a moment in time, like sound doesn't exist yet it exists everywhere. I don't know, and then it like comes back. So there could be these frequency pitches for those of us who are receiving and tuned in, or maybe you're someone who is just starting to experience this. But usually when that happens, I'm hearing generally like a clairaudient activation, but this feels different. I mean, that could very well be expanding and happening, but this feels like, well, with the theme of things being hidden in plain sight, and then having I just heard like the word ocular, but having the awareness to be able to more deeply receive these. I just heard pitch call. So it's like, it really feels like there's a next, just basically this like integration of the next octave of consciousness leading into a change in your physical world. So it's like this pitch almost feels like, I just heard in my head clarion call, and I've looked this up before, and for some reason it never stays in my head of what the meaning is. Interesting. A strongly expressed demand or request for action. So we'll see where this goes. Okay, so with the Great Attractor, it's interesting that the word to describe Laniakea is Hawaiian, because when I was digging into a little bit from the Andara crystals and monatomic gold and elements. So, this has been like ongoing off and on for quite some time of my research and experiences, etc. And from different golden ages or epochs on Earth tend to come up during these experiences. And a lot of people trace back monatomic gold or ORMUS gold to Egypt. And then when I was tuning in deeper, I kept getting, at one point, like Atlantean memories were coming through. And then pulling it all together, of course, then Lemuria was actually coming up with the Andara crystals. And interestingly, one of my experiences with Andara, an Andara crystal. Now, I just wanted to also say, like anything, ORMUS, Andara, anything else, and I don't say these things like to scare anyone. I just, I've been doing research for quite some time, and there's a lot of, just easily, I'm not feeling a word for some reason, but basically, like, there are people out there that sell Andara crystals for like exuberant amounts of money, and Andara still itself being verified as being what it says it is, etc. So a lot of this, when we're tuning in, of course, if you really feel called and you find someone that you trust, yes, for sure. But just, do your research. Unless you don't care, then that's okay too. But this is just coming up. And also with, ORMUS Gold, I did a quick look on Amazon, and there's so many products now. Like when I first started taking it a few years ago, there was obviously many less options. Yeah. Okay, so as I went a little bit deeper with the Andara a few years ago, I wound up going to Hawaii for a retreat, a Kundalini and sound healing retreat. And I didn't know this at the time, but I had been looking up Andaras, but I did not, I never really seek out crystals generally, really rarely. They usually just show up if I meant, if I feel like I'm meant to have one, or however you want to phrase it. And so, yeah, I went to Hawaii, and this woman who was leading the retreat happened to be selling Andara crystals for, I might have even won mine in she did these little giveaways. I can't even remember. But either way, I remember there were a few, and the one that I felt called to take, she was saying that because we were in Hawaii, and when we tune into Lemuria, often Hawaii is one of the main places that comes up. So yeah, she was talking about Lemuria and the connection to these Andaras. And apparently, I think the one that I chose, she called the shamanic stone. I remember it was black and this beautiful sea-ish green. I actually gave it to someone, a friend and client. I don't know if she still has it, but if you listen to this, I hope you are enjoying that stone, because I really had so much fun with that one. I wanted to look into... I did pause, so if I'm not leaving off exactly where I was, my apologies. But yeah, I found someone who debunked an Andara monatomic reference that somebody was selling these Andara crystals and claiming they were monatomic. And I like how she broke down As I said, monatomic means one atom and is used to refer to elements that can be stable as a single atom. In order to be stable, they need a full, stable valence shell of electrons. Monatomic elements are elements that are happy to exist as just one atom and don't need to be bonded to anything else to be stable. Metallic. Yeah, the word metallic is coming through. Monatomic elements, mostly noble gases: helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon, oganesson. Hopefully I pronounced this correctly. Anyway, yeah, so basically with the Andara glass, there's many claims and, a few things that I'm looking into. I saw someone who was explaining about Andara, and basically it's slag glass, which is dumped from recycled trash, basically. At least according to a lot of this. I mean, I haven't gone out there and tested it myself, but and this person who was talking about this, I think it's a woman, I'm not sure. If you have and use Andara glass, that's wonderful. My only advice here is, if you feel drawn to it, use this as a starting point to unpack your relationship, since it's actually like doesn't have a crystalline structure. And it says if you're just attracted to the energy of where these alleged Andaras are found. And I tried to look up the original name or etymology of Andara, and I saw like multiple different things. Yeah, this person just suggests like going to the actual energy vortex of where these alleged Andaras are found. It's hard with this stuff because, like I said, I had one, and yeah, they're beautiful if you look at them, and there's still some sort of, debate, like I keep saying, and yeah. I will obviously leave it up to each one of you to decide your relationship to this, but I just wanted to give multiple perspectives here. And if you're someone who has like ever tested one of these on some kind of, I'm not even sure how you would test something like that. I know there's ways. Feel free to share, but yeah. And, like the one that I received, I know that it was technically, if you believe in like charging something with specific energy, like I know that this woman, because I saw her process, like I know that she did charge things, but, she also didn't, I think she was selling them for like $20 or $30. It wasn't like $400. So yeah, just keep these things in mind, even if it is a conduit to be able to hold energetic, metaphysical properties, then yeah, just definitely do your research. I didn't plan to spend that much time on Andaras, but apparently it wanted to come through. Okay, so and I feel like I was a bit maybe hypocritical because I was talking about how I had one and then how I'm like debunking through a lot of other people's research. So yeah, I think it's important that we talk about these things. I mean, yeah, okay. But tracing back through now the history of ORMUS, I actually read somewhere that like saying that it's monoatomic, again, I haven't like tested any of these things, but when I've tuned into different, I guess you can say more esoteric themes, I was guided to bring this up, which I actually kind of forgot about. A few months ago, I was in Belgium and staying at a retreat center, and we had like a movie night. And the person who owned he doesn't own the actual place, but it's his retreat center. He picked a movie called, I actually don't remember the name, but there was this substance in the movie, the theme, and as soon as I was watching it, it clicked in my head. In some traditions, they call it amrita, nectar, which it looked like resemblance of honey, and they say those who've experienced it, it tastes like a sweet nectar that's produced in the body after a specific like alchemical process. And my first thought was ORMUS GOLD as well. And some people that tune into Atlantean memories also talk about the Mahatma energy, which I believe I've mentioned before. It comes through as like a white golden light, like a crystalline liquid light. And so when I was playing with tuning into the energetics of certain things before I even like worked with state gold, I was always taken to the Mahatma, the white golden. It was like the energy template, which allegedly, dates back to Atlantis. So yeah, there's some really wild experiences when you can start tuning into some of the monatomic mythos, I guess you can say. The Philosopher's Stone is another thing that comes up. I've watched people talk about the connection to the Philosopher's Stone and the planet Nibiru and then the Anunnaki. Like there's many different rabbit holes and connections that have come from this. And one of the stories is like Nibiru, the Anunnaki that come from Nibiru, like basically came here to mine gold because they like ran out of it in their place. There's so many different things. And then what came from there, then there's places, in different parts of the world, especially like I've heard reference like what ancient Babylon was, of pieces of these monatomic state gold references and reverence to specific places that only certain people can go. There's so much around it. And honestly, I think I've been avoiding talking about this because I wasn't even sure like where I wanted to show up with this. And it's like I felt like I couldn't do it enough justice, yet at the same time, I love to work with it. So yeah, I was looking into different people's experiences, and I found someone who released a blog on April 1st, 2024. Keep in mind, he is selling this now, but he was talking about his experience with it. And I've also heard a lot of people say, like, reading people's websites, like their gold or their the way their alchemy is like the strongest, or the most potent. And even one of the sources that I get mine from mentioned something like that. And yeah, with any of these things, I mean, I always just suggest to feel into it. And, I really wanted to talk more about like the history and stuff, but it more feels like this trusting your own intuitive connection to things, and of course doing the due diligence behind it. And I really do believe that, for example, like working with like grid work, for example, or energetic vortexes, like remote viewing, we can tune into these experiences from anywhere, any place, anytime, with some practice and intention, etc. Now, when it comes to the physical body, like working with ORMUS or monatomic elements has an effect on the body physically from my experience and from research. So, of course, there are those aspects as well. And talking about the, in a topic that's getting quite popular, quantum entanglement, and said that working with these this monatomic element can. I also found this site, CHOQ, Chalk, I suppose, .com. Jonathan Simpkins. I have never tried this product, but I was reading about some of the things that was written on the site. Monoatomic elements and quantum effects, and it's titled Magnetism, Monatomics, and Quantum Effects. Now, I was really drawn to this because of the magnetic aspect of the Great Attractor that I was tuning into, and then I found this like right after that, and so I just did a little looking into it. I can link this if you want to do if you want to read it yourself, but essentially, let me see. Okay. This person says he's an entrepreneur and independent researcher with extensive experience in the natural food industry, and spent 15 years studying traditional food and healing systems around the world, developing natural products and promoting health optimization strategies. So a little bit about the background of the author of this. He says, did you know that harsh niches exist in the universe and that the universe is flowing inside of you? So these harsh niches exist also in the furthest reaches of our outer space. Deep inside the garden you are wrapped around, monatomic elements have the ability to penetrate and survive in such places. And I find this interesting that the Great Attractor was coming through because, meteorite, I was talking a few videos ago about how I was drawn to watch this documentary on meteors and how, basically all around the world there's this reverence to certain meteor sites and experiences, from artists to scientists and researchers. It really just brings out this element of mystery and magic surrounding it from what I was seeing. Yeah, and monatomic seems to be a similar thing. Okay, I'm going to keep reading. And then it says, as above, so below, as below, so above. Of course, that's a Hermetic principle that you probably, if you're into this, you've most likely heard of that before. What is non-baryonic matter? Non-baryonic, baryonic, matter is a neutral pole modifier and associated with the neutrino in space and inside yourself. This non-baryonic matter has a frequency to create a confluence and harmonizing of parallel magnetic arcs in the ether. These parallel magnetic arcs are what the building blocks of life are composed of. All follow magnetic laws of attraction and repulsion between two poles. Interesting, because I feel like there's a lot of talk right now about integrating polarities, integrating the masculine and feminine aspects, integrating the, heart-brain coherence. And it goes even deeper with when I tune into that, they say we also have a gut brain, a brain in our gut. So when we are in heart-brain coherence, there's also this alignment that comes through the gut, and I'm being shown the spinal communication, how important it is to have our spine in alignment with all of these other aspects, as a full working unit. And I myself have been so interesting. I literally just tasted some heartburn and a little bit. And in this, what I'll keep reading, the guy uses heartburn as an example. So yeah, I'm just going to keep reading and I'll continue. What is in between the poles is this skin of magnetic moment that life is composed of. Life organizes itself as it has a resonant connection faster than the speed of light. What's faster than the speed of light passes through baryonic matter. And then he goes on to talk about the monatomic element effects in the body. He says, did you know that frugivore's upper stomach parietal produces hydrochloric acid of a pH of about 1? In an omnivore, it's a pH of 4. That's a very strong acidic condition relative to what is overall. In case you're not familiar, a frugivore, if I'm saying that right, is a being that mostly survives on raw fruits, succulent fruit-like produce, plants such as roots, shoots, nuts, and seeds. And I am not here to promote any sort of dietary preference or anything like this. I'm just reading and researching and going through it with you. Okay. And I really do truly believe with that type of concept, I think there's many factors at play, and I think it has to do with your bloodline, your actual physical body's needs, your consciousness state, etc. Your relationship to your emotional state, whether or not you're in stress or survival mode, how it breaks down different foods. So yeah, there's all of that. Brunner's glands, that's Brunner, is actually, I'm looking that up. I'm not sure what Brunner's glands is. Brunner's glands function to neutralize acids from your stomach. Okay. So yeah. In the duodenum, then produced by carbonate that protects your cells from this caustic acid, you and I are living, walking ant hills, really. We are composed of a symbiotic union of microbial life coalesced into building blocks that make up all other tissues, including all internal organelles of a cell. So basically it goes on to talk about more of the breakdown of the body. And then it says monatomic elements are directly involved with your ability to produce neurotransmitters. That really caught my attention. It talks more about the digestive juice created by the salivary glands and higher mucous membranes, also creating and releasing monatomic nutrients. These nutrients eventually enter into your intestinal garden. Monatomic deuterium plays a powerful role, as does nascent hydrogen in neutralizing conditions of your gut. So basically it talks about your gut health, the connection to neurotransmitters, cell voltage, conditions alleviated with monatomic elements, and that's where he mentions the neutralizing of stomach acid, and then magnoelectric energy of monatomic elements contained in complex biological tissue assists your cells to transform water into actual body tissue. Since water is flowing, the earth is expanding and growing bigger every year. And then it's so funny because I had an hour at, we had a pretty nice day here, and I'm staying in a building that has a pool, so I went to the pool for a little bit. And I kept like feeling this brain fog. Like no matter what I was doing, I felt like I just kept feeling a bit of brain fog. So then I went outside and I just laid in the sun and took like a 15-20 minute meditation, and I finally felt the relief of the brain fog. So yeah, if you're in a place right now that the sun is just not shining, maybe considering working with light language, some sort of sun or solar, if you have like a lamp, or just maybe looking at videos of the sun appearing. But you could also even just like maybe being outside, of course if it's freezing where you are. Yeah, there's just something about that. So anyway, I was really drawn to, I was just like feeling very grateful, and I was looking at like the water reflecting on one part of the ceiling, and I just was like really like tuning into the water and the vibration of water and the memory of water, and then I googled and found this. So water goes through its full hydrological cycle and gets seeded by helium. Monatomic helium is very unique because it has an atomic weight of just 3. Because of this, it is involved in phase conjugation and tapping into the vacuum to supply energy. Helium can be found in Earth's mantle and has an association with certain hydrocarbons. Monatomic helium gives superfluidity and gives the memory of superfluidity to water. Helium influences water toward a memory of superfluidity. On another note, you can witness anti-gravitic properties and many other unusual effects that monatomic helium imparts. Interesting, because anti-gravitic propulsion systems were a huge factor in like the Nazi time, the Nazi regime, World War II. If you dive like deeper into some of those, maybe you've already done that, but I don't know, I keep hearing Oppenheimer. I know it's a movie, I haven't watched it, but maybe if someone here has watched it, like that comes up a lot. So maybe there's something here about Oppenheimer. Yeah, but so monatomic helium causes air to flow more and also assists your digestive, lymphatic, cardiovascular rivers to all flow properly. Nutrient sources that contain such a noble gas and other monatomic elements have extremely novel effects on water and biology. Monatomic elements enable you to be able to survive in a toxic or stressed world and have even more longevity. Yeah, so like I said, I'm just reading this from someone else, but I have felt like when I do take monoatomic or, ORMUS GOLD, there is this like cohesiveness. And now I really do also, like I always say, believe that we have everything within us to cultivate that connection of a deeper connection with our body systems, unifying our different subtle bodies to integrate and work together. But sometimes I think it's nice to, if you can, have some sort of, we're still physical beings, and to work with a substance like this. Of course, I always say to try and please be really responsible with it, because, it's potent. We don't want to like overuse resources and things like this. But yeah. I love how he mentions the memory of water, because I've been talking about this for a while, and I think those of us who are tuning into like these plasma, like remembering like plasma light and like water like plasma substance, especially if you're tuned into like the Sirius star system, and essentially utilizing the frequency of ORMUS as a gateway into these higher octaves of, if you want to call it, superfluidity. I mean, some of these terms, we can easily like throw them around and misuse them. So I really am doing my best to, yes, allow my intuitive channel to be open, but to also do some research. And I'm not like a trained scientist, so I'm doing my best to try and understand some of the things that I feel and that I've experienced. Yeah, so the idea of, like the neurotransmitters and being able to like unify our own system more deeply, into more longevity, into a integration when we talk about higher octaves of consciousness. And some people talk about having this like really like mental clarity and mental peace when working with ORMUS, and others have had experiences where they don't really have this. They might actually feel more chaotic for a bit. And I think it's really important to know that when you're working with these type of substances, really like tuning into yourself is so important, because everyone's, all of your unique essence of you, your mental, your emotional, your spiritual, your astral, your physical, different aspects of you are reacting to this substance. So keep that in mind. And my ears just pressure shifted again. So yeah, I feel like you will, when you feel called to it, like I've had other people interested in it, and then they would like, and I, would make a tincture, and then they would take it, and it would like be on their bedside for like 6 months. So if you, it's something that I would never encourage or like force, be like, oh, did you take that? Like, if you're drawn to take it, then you're most likely ready to work with it. It's kind of how I feel most of the time. Yeah, I'm probably going to do an overflow on Patreon. I'm actually not sure where I'm going to go with this yet. And I really wanted to put together a bunch of, like I said, I wasn't sure how to approach this topic. I feel like I barely even scratched the surface, but I'm just going to trust what came through today. And if this is something that you're interested in and you would like to go, deeper, and maybe understand your own personal connection to it, please feel free to let me know, and I can do like another transmission that goes maybe more specific into certain topics or connections. I do want to just note that the Laniakea cluster and the idea of this magnetism and the like weaving together of the monatomic elements, and a lot of the scams that were coming through, and how it's like metaphorically going through our own body systems and all the different layers and subtleties and realms of consciousness that we traverse through. It's like we have these scams in our own fields. When I say scam, I just mean, programming that we need to work through and release and reprogram, if you will. So it's interesting that was coming up so much, because it feels like as we continue to tune into some of these more hidden in plain sight things that are coming to the surface or being illuminated, of course, within us, excuse me, we've released, some of these, if you want to call it programming, and the Laniakea, I just feel like I'm butchering that, meaning like open skies, wide horizons, immense heaven. So many of us talk about the holy grail of these bloodlines, and integrating heaven as a state of consciousness to co-create from that place into this ascent into our next golden age. And so, it's like, it really truly is within. And, near-death experiences come up so often. And if you've done any research into that or have had any of your own, one thing I really went deep into listening to those for a while, off and on. And I really feel like, when we die or have a really profound or near-death experience, it's like our state of consciousness projects our experience to a degree. So tuning into substances like ORMUS, or understanding some of the higher octaves of potentiality for consciousness and etherization of the blood, integrating that into our physical vessel and like holding that within is like a whole different playing field than like what we've seen, at least in this Earth timeline, play out. And so, yeah, sort of just a few of the things that are coming up as I see some of the connections here. But yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much. Like I said, I do feel like there's so much more that wants to come through at some point, but I'd love to hear anything that came up for you. And like I said, maybe that will help to unfold like the next layer. And if you do feel called to the Patreon overflow, I will see you there. It will be in the description. Thank you. I also just wanted to quickly add, so I was thinking of the word superconductor, and I saw like something in, like, and when you Google something, there's suggestions, and it says, is diamond a superconductor? And it's funny that it did not come up before, because when I was meditating on this topic off and on for the last few hours, I kept being taken to the idea of crystalline DNA and the double diamond DNA, the diamond DNA, diamond sun DNA. And it says electrical resistivity, magnetic susceptibility, specific heat, and field-dependent resistance measurements show that boron-doped diamond is a bulk type 2 superconductor below the superconducting transition temperature. So, yeah, I did have an experience with a holographic template of crystalline DNA, and I talk about this sometimes. You may have heard me mention this before, back in like 2018 maybe. And I do feel like this connection to activating our crystalline DNA, the diamond sun templates, double diamond sun templates, feel very connected to working with a substance like ORMUS GOLD, or having an experience with Amrita, that nectar, creating this heaven state of being, of consciousness, inner peace. Yeah, so I'll probably dive deeper into that in the extended an overflow. And I'm sure I will be also reading things from the Ascension Glossary. And sort of pulling through from there. I was going to read some things from there on this, actually, now that I just remembered. But yeah, I think I'm going to save it for the overflow. All right, thank you.